You're live.
Thank you, Brian. Good evening, everyone. This is Monday, December 14th, 7:30 p.m. And this is the Township of Grosse Board Business Meeting. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right.
Well, everybody, as you may or may not know in the listening audience, this is the first meeting of the new board. So before we get into our agenda, I'd like to actually go around and introduce everybody so you know who you're going to be seeing and dealing with over the next 4 years. My name is Jim Budney. I'm your new supervisor. If I look familiar, it's because I have been a trustee for the last 8 years on the board. So you may or may not know me. To my right, or to my right when we actually get back together, will be the clerk, Uda O'Connor. Uda, you want to say hi to everybody?
Hello, everybody. Welcome aboard.
Thank you. And to my left will be Mr. David Nadeau, our new treasurer. Dave.
Good evening, everyone.
And then we have our trustees, and I'll do them in alphabetical order. We have Mr. Carl Bloetscher III. Carl? Off of mute, Carl, off of mute. Nice try. Off of mute, there you go.
Good evening, everybody, and happy holidays.
The rest of the 4 years you can be on mute, Carl, but for this, no. All right, Mike Jurecki. Mike is brand new, one of the new trustees.
Hello, everybody. Merry Christmas.
Good. Yes, Merry Christmas. Next is Joe Porcarelli. Joe, you want to say hi?
Good evening.
And finally, Jameson Yager. Where's
Glad
Jameson?
to be of service.
There
Howdy.
you are. And that is your board. I'm sure you'll never get tired of us. So here we go. Our first meeting, and we'll start with additions and deletions. Okay, no one has any. I do have a deletion. I'd make a motion to delete action item number 4.
Support.
Thank you. Thank you. And this poor action item, at some point we will actually get it to vote on. I had been asked by the fire commission liaison to postpone it one more meeting so that at our next meeting, I'm going to ask for a study session for the board to bring them up to date on this issue so everybody's on the same page. So we will be doing that. It will be an action. I will also have it as an action item on our January 11th meeting. So any questions on that? If not, all in favor of deleting action item number 4?
Aye.
Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Not hearing any. The action item number 4 will be deleted from this meeting. All right. Next, presentations. And actually, Brian Friel, I'm going to turn it over to you. I believe you are going to do the swearing in.
Absolutely. Okay, so if all our board members can raise their right hand, we can swear you in here. Repeat after me. I do solemnly swear or affirm
I do solemnly swear or affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will
I will
support
support
the
the
Constitution of the United States
States
and the Constitution of this state,
and the
and the
Constitution of this state,
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
and that I will faithfully discharge the duties
of the office of, state the office you're in,
of the office of Supervisor
Township Trustee
in and for the Township of Grosse, County of Wayne,
in and for the Township of Grosse, County of Wayne,
Wayne,
and state of Michigan, according to the best of my ability.
and the state of Michigan according to the best of my ability.
abilities.
All set and sworn in.
Thank you, Brian. Next, we have a presentation. I assume Mark Warnick, are you there? Mark?
He was here.
Yeah,
Mr.
he
Supervisor, I
got off the screen.
Where's he at?
Hello, Mark.
No,
Oh,
I'm
there he
here.
is.
I'm
Mark,
Yeah.
you want to do your awards?
Yeah, I'm going to turn it over to Lieutenant Pellin. He did such an excellent job of writing this up. It's been so long, and I'm going to let him do this.
All right, good. Lieutenant Pellin.
Yes, sir. Mr. Supervisor, I'm proud to be here tonight to share with you two separate incidents that we will recognize members of the Grosse Police Department and then some of our firefighters for some actions that they took that saved some lives. The first one we're going to address is the actions of Officer John Canterbury. On November 27th of this year, at approximately 11:35 in the evening, Officer Canterbury was dispatched to the area of the Hickory Island Bridge on the report of a suspicious person. The only information that he had was that this could be a male and that the person was yelling. It was not known at the time of the call what situation he would encounter, but his initial thoughts could be that it could be an intoxicated subject or perhaps something domestic violence or some type of fight. Noting that the temperature outside was 32 degrees, the area was not well traveled and extremely dark, Officer Canterbury was the first officer on the scene. He checked the area and did not initially observe anything out of the ordinary, but he continued his search with his window down despite the cold weather and subsequently heard a faint cry for help. At the same time, he observed what would later be determined the taillights of a vehicle that was completely submerged in the water near the Grosse Yacht Club. Officer Canterbury located a 27-year-old Westland man behind a guardrail suffering from the onset of hypothermia. While initially assisting this person, his attention was brought to a second subject that he observed face down in the water and having difficulty breathing. He was semi-conscious and struggling. Officer Canterbury took swift action to traverse a steep 8-foot embankment and enter the 37-degree water and pull the 29-year-old man to safety. Immediately, he requested EMS and took steps to render aid to these two individuals. There is no doubt that had Officer Canterbury not been diligent in his search, take the immediate action that he did and provide aid, both James McCormick and Stuart Patel would have perished. On behalf of the Grosse Police Commission and Chief Mark Warnick, I request the Township Board to recognize Officer John Canterbury with this life-saving award.
Yes, thank you, John. Absolutely.
Great job.
I would also note that John's only been with our department a couple of years after serving the city of Detroit. He's done a phenomenal job to this point, and I'm very proud that he's on our department. He represents us very well.
Excellent job, John. Thank you.
Thank you. You're muted. Aren't we? Oh.
By the way, John, I would just say, keep this picture because it makes you look a little older.
It's the stunning beard that pages me.
I do note that his wife and his father and mother are zooming in, and they're.
I did see them, and congratulations to them too for having a wonderful son.
Yeah. So we'll flip to our second award, life-saving award tonight, where we're going to recognize Officers Todd Brozak and Sue Delpiaz and Dispatcher Monica Brozak. This award stems back almost from an incident 6 months ago that occurred on June 21st of this year, which started out as a typical Father's Day for us, but turned frightful and dreadful for one of our island families. Shortly before 9 o'clock on this particular morning, Dispatcher Brozak fielded a 911 call for help from a panicked 25-year-old girl that was reporting that her father was having difficulty breathing and having a potential seizure. She dispatched Officers Brozak and Delpiaz immediately, and then they worked cohesively to coordinate and respond to the medical emergency with several firefighters. Officers Brozak and Delpiaz arrived within minutes and witnessed the victim go into sudden cardiac arrest. They initiated life-saving measures, including CPR and the use of the department AED, which did provide a shock to our 54-year-old victim. Minutes after arriving on the scene, aid was continued by firefighters John Camilleri, James Gatt, Robert Roscoe, and Jacob Gonzalez. Our 54-year-old friend was transported to Wyandotte Hospital with a police escort. What's notable in this critical incident is the calm and professional demeanor exhibited by our first responders. Dispatcher Brozak did a phenomenal job coordinating police and fire personnel while simultaneously reassuring the caller that her father would be okay and help was on the way. Her composure in navigating through this particular crisis was incredible. You're going to hear a brief audio clip of the phone call and some radio transmissions that show how well our first responders handled themselves on this particular morning. So I'm going to ask Bryan to flip to our audio clip. And if you, I don't know if you can flip the pictures so we can see our first responders.
You guys can hear that though, so hold on one second.
Yeah. There we go.
Practice this and then you get to it.
While he's pulling it up, I want you to note how calm our first responders' voices were throughout the entire call. Whether it was Monica on the desk, Sue or Todd letting you know that the AED is shocked or that they're clear, their voice stayed consistent the whole time.
I'm only getting it to play through my computer. You guys can't hear that, can you?
No.
No, no.
Not really.
Okay.
Ken, we will take your word for it.
Okay. Well, I do want to note that, you know, the call came in and just sitting in Monica's seat, you have this girl calling extremely panicked on Father's Day. And she's reporting first that her dad is either having difficulty breathing or is not breathing. Without hesitation, she goes to the police radio and she dispatches Officer Brozak and Officer Delpiaz. Officer Delpiaz was at the corner of Meridian and East River, and both of them arrived on the scene within a couple minutes. You can hear in the background of a radio or the phone call that they announce their presence. They walk in calmly and they encounter Mr. Ketcher's wife and his daughter. They immediately start administering CPR. They hook up the AED. It shocks. They notify dispatch. And then they wait for the fire department as they continue CPR. Our 4 firefighters arrived on scene, continued the life-saving measures. They loaded them up in the ambulance, and my officers gave them an escort to the hospital. Had it not been for their quick and swift professional response, Mr. Ketcher probably would not be here today. He would not be enjoying another holiday with his son, his daughter, his wife. And I can just tell you that I am very proud to give them these awards for their efforts on that particular day. And it's an honor to work alongside them. So please congratulate Officers Brozak and Dalpiaz, Dispatcher Brozak, and our 4 firefighters for their heroic efforts on that particular June morning.
Absolutely.
Great work.
Absolutely.
Joe.
Congratulations to all of you. Walt, it's good to see you here. It's a Christmas blessing for your family.
Yes.
Yeah, I see Kelly's there as well.
Yep.
Kelly, it's good to see you. I haven't seen you in a while.
I'm trying not to cry. Well, I am crying, but
Yeah.
Well,
Tears
I
of joy.
I will
Yeah.
note, Kelly, that you did a phenomenal job when you were on the phone with Dispatcher Brozak. I know you yelled at your mom a little bit. I remember sharing the audio tape with you guys. But it's when you actually have to relive this over and over and over, like I had putting this together, it still makes goosebumps. You know, it's incredible what they did, and it's good to see Walt up and at 'em. So
Absolutely.
again,
yeah,
Yeah,
thank
I'm
you
proud to
guys
work
all
with
again. We appreciate it. And Officer Pelham's right. My dad would not be here today. So thank you.
You're welcome. Deb and Walt, do you want to say anything?
You're muted, guys.
You're
I don't
muted.
know.
You got to unmute yourself. There
Okay,
you go.
I want to say thank you to the professionalism, all the training. God bless Grosse. God bless everything that, all the toys that the chief had. That was all good. But I just want to say thank you to everybody.
The fact that every police officer has a defibrillator is huge. And I believe that that plus the factor of the officers and our wonderful firefighting staff and Monica too on dispatch, you guys are my heroes. I thank you for saving my husband, my family.
And I want to thank my wife and daughter too, because they performed CPR and called you guys. So I love you guys.
Thank you very much, you guys. Wishing you all a blessed Christmas and holiday season and a great year for many of you in your new endeavors.
Thank you. Thank you. And you guys enjoy your Christmas by all means.
Mr.
Good to see you,
Supervisor?
Walt.
Oh, Mr. Supervisor, can I just add something?
Sure, absolutely.
Deb and Walt, I want to thank you and Callie too for sharing your story on this Zoom meeting, because it is something so valuable, but also so personal, but it will help other families as well. And I'm just so glad to see you.
I am too.
Yeah, well,
All right. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, you guys.
And again, thanks to both our police and fire personnel involved. Thank you for your job.
And thanks, Ken, for everything.
Yeah,
my pleasure.
you go a long way back there, buddy.
Yeah, it's 28 years probably, Deb.
All right. Moving right along. The next we have brief public comment, limited to 3 minutes on any agenda item. Do we have any takers?
Do I have opportunity to speak there, Jim?
Bryan, do we have somebody?
Yeah, you have Bill Heil.
Hey, Bill. Happy holidays. What would you like to say, sir?
Thank you, Jim. Part of the agenda tonight is dealing with communications, meetings. I think it's a wise thing for the this is on the agenda, Jim.
It is. It's been deleted, but
Oh, I didn't. I missed that, I guess. Well, I guess I haven't got a time to make a comment then.
You'll be on the next one. You have your choice.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else?
That's all I'm seeing.
That's all. Okay, we'll move on to consent agenda. Mr. Nadeau, if you would, please.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. At this time, I'd like to make a motion to approve consent agenda 20-056, which contains the following items. Minutes of the November 9th, 2020 regular meeting of the board. Check registers dated through December 11th, 2020. Approval to process and distribute payments through January 1 of 2021. A new appointment to the Downtown Development Authority Board, and approval of the 33rd District Court budget, which, by the way, was down 2.3% from the prior year.
Do I have a support?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Bloetscher. Any comments on the consent agenda? Not hearing any. We have a motion and a support for the consent agenda consisting of the minutes of November 9th, 2020, check register dated December 11th, 2020, approval to process and distribute payments through January 1st, 2021, appointment to the Downtown Development Authority, and approval of the 33rd District Court budget. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Hearing none. That passes 7-0. Thank you very much. Our consent agenda is okay. Action items. Our first one, I will turn it over to our clerk, Ms. O'Connor, if you would do the honors.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor, and I'm very pleased to have been named the liaison to the Fire Commission at the beginning of this term, and I have had the pleasure to meet with the Fire Chief and the Fire Commission, and we will actually also have a commendation coming up at our January meeting, because we did not vote on this until our meeting last Thursday, so it didn't make the agenda. But for today, I am bringing forward an item that the commission brought forward. And so with no further ado, based on the recommendation of the Fire Commission, I move to approve the purchase of 2 Lucas 3 version 3.1 chest compression devices, 1 for each ambulance, for the total of $31,317.44. And this is to come from the Grosse Fire Department Equipment Fund.
Okay. I need a support.
I'll support it.
Okay. Who was that? Was it Joe? Was that you?
Me or Jameson? Yeah.
Okay.
And so, Jim, I'm sure you'll want to ask Chief Beaudry to give us a rundown. He gave us extensive documentation in our board packet, but for the purposes of informing the public, I'd like for him to give us a brief presentation on these devices. And again, something that might be of interest given the commendations that we just listened to a moment ago.
Yes, Chief Beaudry.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Fire away. Yes, we can.
Okay. These 2 devices are they're game changers. What they do is they continue CPR compressions once they're strapped onto the patient uninterrupted. When you're getting the patient down the stairs, out to the stretcher, they continue to do their compressions. They're also increased safety for the firefighters, because generally we have to bend over the patient and do CPR in the back of the ambulance while we're en route to the hospital. Imagine trying to do CPR while the ambulance is weaving in and out of traffic and you're trying to maintain good compressions. These two devices, there's one for each ambulance, they take that problem right out. Once it's strapped on, they continue doing compressions nonstop all the way to the hospital and all the way until you shut it off. They never get fatigued, they never tire, and they do perfect compressions each time. These are brand new coming out. I wish we had them for Wally. When we had Wally's call, we didn't, but we've had them for 2 full arrests so far, and they have worked flawlessly. Generally, we do about 4 full arrests a year. So far this year, we have had 12. Again, these devices are game changers. I don't know how we lived without them before, but they sure do make it a lot easier for us to continue doing compressions while we're getting the patient out of the home, up the stairs, all the way to the hospital. And it allows us to do our other jobs while the compressions continue. Thank you.
Okay. And again, the idea is that you turn them on, you strap them on, you turn them on, and you have that continuity until they're shut off. I understand sometimes even in the hospital, the doctors leave them on for a period of time while they prep doing other things. So they're modern technology.
They work so well. The salesperson was telling a story of one of the other fire departments. The machine was working on the gentleman and he actually came to in the back of the ambulance. They thought he's conscious. They shut the machine off, and as soon as they shut the machine off, he lost consciousness again. And they realized the machine was what was keeping him going and keeping his heart going so well. So they do a good job.
Very good. Board, anybody have any questions for the chief or for Ms. O'Connor?
No,
Joe?
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
Jameson was first.
Okay,
Joe,
so
go ahead.
I just throw in, I spent some time as a firefighter, and CPR is absolutely backbreaking work. You're literally pumping the person's heart for them from outside their body. So when he's talking about moving people up and down stairs and stuff, a lot of times you have to stop compressions, or you have to add 200 pounds to the gurney with a firefighter and kit on there, pumping the person's chest. So it's coming out of the equipment budget. That's why there is an equipment budget. I mean, the chief says he needs it, and I believe him. So I just wanted to throw some support behind your request there, Chief.
Excellent. Joe?
Yeah, when I spoke to Rusty about this before, believe it or not, when I started my public safety career, I was a firefighter, police officer, EMT. And I trained on a device very close to this. It was a piston-driven pump, and it absolutely worked. I can say in firsthand. Now, I never used it firsthand, only in the emergency room when we trained on it in there when I was a firefighter. But I saw it work on people, and it takes away, it gives you 2 hands. It gives the individuals in the back of the rig, as Jameson stated. I think most of us have done CPR, and the longer you go, the less effective you really are, because you get tired, you get sloppy, changing people, you have to pause. And I'm in full favor of anything that will save lives, will help save lives, will make things not just easier for firemen or policemen, but will make it more effective. And if it's more effective, it's absolutely worth it. It's worth the price. So I let Russ know too before, and I let the board know that I'm in full favor of this. Thank you.
Great. Mike, did you have something to say?
Yeah, but it's already been said. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else? All right. With no other comments, then we have a motion before us, basically to purchase 2 Lucas devices. At what was the cost? I don't have it in front of me. It's not in my packet.
$31,317.44.
Okay, thank you. And that's coming out of your equipment fund, correct, Russ?
That's correct.
Okay.
That's for both though, Jim, correct?
That's for both.
Yes. Okay.
All right. With that in mind, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, that passes unanimously. Very good. All right, Mr. Nadeau, you're up. DPS.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. This time I want to make a motion that's based upon a recommendation by the Grosse Department of Public Services Commission that the board award a contract to Weiss Construction Company, LLC, for the installation of equipment for the rebuild of primary clarifier tank number 3 and the installation of equipment for the secondary clarifiers at the aggregate cost of $266,500 plus a 10% contingency. Furthermore, the DPS Commission recommends the approval of a contract with Weiss Construction Company, LLC, for the installation of equipment for the primary clarifier tank number 2 at a cost of $95,500 plus a 10% contingency. This work, the second part of that, will not take place until after April 1st, 2021.
You have a motion.
I'll second it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, you want to give a background there, David or Derek?
You want me to try it, Derek, or you want to do it?
Go ahead, Dave, if you want to give it a whirl.
Jump in anytime, Derek. About 4 months ago in August, the township authorized the purchase of the equipment for the rebuild of the primary clarifiers at the wastewater treatment plant. The cost of $272,000 and some change, and also for the purchase of the equipment for the rebuild of the secondary clarifiers at the treatment plant, and that cost was $75,784. Both of these purchases were direct from the supplier, and that was done because there was considerable savings on the price as a result of the direct purchase. After the authorization, the township with a bid for the installation of the equipment. We had 3 bids were received, and Weiss Construction was the low bidder for those 2 projects. And it's to be split between the current fiscal year for the first phase for the primary clarifier and the secondary primary clarifier. Weiss was also the low bidder on that. And so we recommend to award that work now, which will be prepared in the following fiscal year. C. Raines, our engineer, also reviewed the bids and the scope of the work, and also recommended that Weiss be awarded the contract.
Questions?
Hey, Derek, I know you told me during the little tour I got there of our wastewater treatment plant, but how old is this equipment again?
Most of the equipment is 40 to 50 years old.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep.
Derek, could you just expound a little bit on the differentiation between this fiscal year and next fiscal year? Why we're approving that now?
So included in the action item was a budget for the wastewater treatment plant for this fiscal year, which had listed a variety of different capital improvements with an aggregate total of somewhere around $600,000 or so. We did do some modifications to the capital improvement budget for this fiscal year based upon some engineers revisions on cost for some other things that were included for this year that we're going to end up pushing off to the ACO work. So in order to stay within the total capital improvement budget for the wastewater treatment plant, a portion of the work is going to be pushed off until next fiscal year, just to make sure that we have our budget numbers, we stay within our budget numbers for our capital improvements within this fiscal year. And it's not going to cause any adverse issues. The way that the work is being scheduled and also the delivery of the equipment, they'll start in February, do tank number 3, and then go to the secondary clarifiers, which will be about 6 to 8 weeks. And then right after April 1, which will fit in with their schedule nicely, start on primary clarifier tank number 2. The other part of all this, they can't take any more than one primary clarifier down at a given time, because obviously the plant still has to operate while they're doing this work. So we couldn't do both of those at the same time anyhow. So it actually works out well with the schedule, with the budget to do it this way.
Yeah, and basically is what Derek is saying, that it pretty much would have worked out this way anyway. By the time they got through with the number 3, tank number 3, and the secondary clarifiers, pretty much is going to be April anyway. So,
and I want to thank everybody that went out to the wastewater treatment plant from the township board to review this work. It's a very complicated facility that has a lot of different steps. So to understand what this work, how this impacts the overall operation of the plant is very, very important. And there's no better way to learn it than to go out and actually look at the plant and allow us the opportunity to explain this to you. So thank you very much, all of you, for going out and looking at the plant.
any other questions? With none, we have a motion based on the recommendation of the Grosse Department of Public Service Commission. Grosse Township Board awards a contract to Weiss Construction Company, LLC, for the installation of equipment for the rebuild of primary clarifier tank number 3 and the installation of equipment for the secondary clarifiers at the aggregate cost of $266,500 plus a 10% contingency. Furthermore, the DPS Commission recommends the approval of a contract with Weiss Construction Company, LLC, for the installation of equipment for primary clarifier tank number 2 at a cost of $95,500 plus a 10% contingency. This work shall not take place until April 1st, 2021. With that motion, all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Hearing none, that passes. Thank you. Thanks, Derek and Dave.
Thank you.
Speaking of Derek and Dave, keep going.
Okay. And I'd like to make a motion that the Grosse Township Board approves a grant application to the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy for the purpose of completing an asset management plan for the Grosse drinking water distribution system.
Motion. Need a support? Thank you. History.
What's the, what are you going to do? What's the grant?
Wait a minute, we need the history first.
Sorry.
Jameson. Either Derek or David, please fill us in on what's going on.
Dave, it's up to you. You want me to handle it or you got it?
I'll take it.
Okay.
I know you'll have to add to it, but Grosse Township in 2018, Grosse Township submitted a plan with regard to state regulations on state requirements for the water distribution system, and made the township had to develop an asset management plan for that. Grosse Township submitted the plan for this work in the winter of 2018, and the plan obligates the township to develop the asset management plan that will include asset inventory and condition assessment, the criticality of assets, level of service, 5 and 20-year capital improvement plans, and a funding structure and rate methodology. In October of this year, and that was done, but in October of this year, Eagle made available funding grants, because as I understand it, Derek, correct me, but that asset management plan was basically an unfunded mandate from the state to develop that, and now they're making available grants to assist the township in preparing that asset management plan. And that work will be performed or will be assisted by C.E. Raines Company and Fishbeck Engineering, who are the same firms that are doing the sanitary sewer asset management plan. And then this approval is for the grant application, and it's not to award any work at this point. I don't know if there's anything else on there, Jerry. But
you did a very good job of explaining it. I think you gave a good summary of what we're asking for here. This is authorization to apply for the grant to conduct the work. I know, Jameson, you had asked what would be done in the asset management plan. It really can be summarized by the 5 different items that are listed there: the history, purpose, and explanation, an asset inventory and condition assessment, basically an establishment of a criticality of the assets, a level of service, 5 and 10-year capital improvement plans, and a review of the funding structure and rate methodology for the funding of the capital improvement plan. So as Dave had mentioned, we're currently in process of doing our sanitary sewer asset management plan. The state along those lines has basically said, we'd like to see this not only for sanitary sewer, but for the water systems. Flint kind of put things right at everybody's front doorsteps about the age of the majority of the water infrastructure in this state and really nationwide. They want all water systems to inventory their system and plan for repairs and replacement based upon a 5 and a 10-year capital improvement schedule, and put the information together that is listed here within this action item.
So this is a permission to apply for a grant to establish or assist in the establishment of our plan to manage our drinking water system and keep it functional and healthy, right? That's the 10,000 foot breakdown of it.
Yeah, it's actually a grant to fund the plan, or
fund the plan. Okay.
To fund the work that's necessary to populate the asset management plan.
Yeah, no, we need that.
And we're in the process of the plan already, and this funding came up to help us rather than us having to take it all out of our pocket. We can apply for this grant and they'll help us out. So, and as Dave put it very aptly at the beginning, it was an unfunded mandate on their part. You're going to do this asset management. You're going to do it on your own. And now we can get some funding.
Something worth noting, there were grant applications or grant dollars available to do the asset management plan for the sanitary sewer system. A while ago, Grosse Township chose not to apply for those grants because there was some concern about if that money, if the township did take that money, whether that would obligate the township to certain conditions associated with their capital improvement plan or their rate structure or what it might be. So we're going to review if we're awarded this grant, we're going to review with legal the contract and make the township board aware of any obligations that may exist within the contract for these funds that the state will require us to sign. And obviously we'll bring those to your attention. If we view or notice that there are obligations, and we're not aware of any at this point, we will definitely bring them to your attention, and we can choose not to take those funds even after award if we don't end up liking what the contract states. So I just wanted to throw that out there and make you aware of that information that we will bring back to you once it's received.
Yeah, that's a good point, Derek. Yeah, that we are not obligated, even if awarded, to take it if there's too many strings attached.
So would that grant money be used to fund township efforts to maintain the water system, or would it be used for like contractors to come in and maintain the water system, or a mix of both?
It's for the asset management plan,
right?
It's not for the work.
In the asset management plan, the development of it will be done by engineering companies that are contracted by the township. So
Okay.
There are opportunities to do some of the work internally, but I think on this one here, we're going to have the engineers handle all of it. The quote that they put together that was included in the packet and is included with the application is all inclusive of them doing all the work, not the township doing any of the work. And once again, as Jim had mentioned, this is for the establishment of the asset management plan. This is not, there's no capital work that's part of this. Okay.
Derek, or Jim, if I could say something.
Sure, Mike.
Question to Derek. So I think you've emphasized it, and we need to reemphasize it. I mean, once we have this plan, there's a high probability that we're going to be expected to implement it, right? And that comes with significant.
That's part of having the plan.
Right.
That's part of having the plan.
And so the only reason why you wouldn't do the plan is because you're afraid to look behind the curtain, right? And you end up doing it yourself, and not nearly as well, probably. So, but you do have input along with the process, right? With the engineering companies, and input as to how much time we can take to implement it, so on and so forth. But it's going to be a multi-year.
It's going to be a multi-year, and actually, Mike, it's all driven by the state.
Yeah.
I mean, they required that we have this plan. We didn't have a choice. So whether we wanted to look behind the curtain or not, they said you're going to look.
Yeah, I'm kind of talking about the next step, though. That is actually the cost of implementing the plan and the money, which probably will come from our coffers, right?
Absolutely. Again, it's an unfunded.
So it's just one more reason that we really need. We got a lot of obligations coming down the road, and you got millages expiring and so on and so forth, and just another reason why we have to get to a multi-year financial plan that I will talk a little bit about in a minute, I guess. But anywho, no, I'm totally for it. Completely makes complete sense.
To Mike's point, putting your head in the sand is not going to solve these problems. They're going to exist whether you choose to look at them or not. They're not going away. And also, Mike and I talked earlier today. The township does have the opportunity to have input on what these capital improvement schedules look like. So we can choose to be ultra aggressive in what we put together, or we can choose to lengthen these out in order to make sure that the funds that we have available match the capital schedules that we're adopting. Obviously, it's all within reason. You've got to do the work, and you got to make sure you're doing the worst first. But we do have input on that capital improvement schedule, not only on this asset management plan, but also our sanitary sewer asset management plan that we're currently working on. So, Mike, thanks for bringing that up. That's a good point.
Jameson, did you have anything else you wanted to ask or add?
No, I don't think so. I think I'm good.
Okay. Anything else from the board? With nothing, we have a motion. The Grosse Township Board hereby approves a grant application to the Michigan Department of Environment, Great Lakes, and Energy for the purpose of completing an asset management plan for the Grosse drinking water distribution system. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none, that passes.
Thank you all for your support tonight.
Thank you. And that ends our action items for tonight. We seem to still be on the air, so I guess we're doing okay. Next, board reports, starting with our clerk's report. Ms. O'Connor, if you would, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Real quick on the clerk's report, just like to say that Deputy Friel and Election Coordinator Elena Farmer and our team are kind of putting this November general election to bed. They're finishing up the paperwork on that. So there's really nothing new to report. And so I would like to dedicate the rest of my report to Chief Beaudry, because two things. I did not know I needed to add the Goodfellows presentation to the beginning of the agenda. I misread that it was already on the agenda, and I'd really like him to give a short presentation on that. But secondly, the Fire Commission also asked if we would give Russ an opportunity just to give us a quick year-end summary for the fire department. And so I'm going to hand the microphone over to Chief Russ Beaudry.
Russ, should we make you an honorary board member?
That would be nice. Thank you. Thank you, Uta. It's been a heck of a year. I'll start out with the year-end review and we'll go into the Goodfellows. So far, we're at 635 calls altogether. We'll be at 700 calls by the end of the year. We have had a house fire, a plane crash, a marina fire, a boating accident, a car water accident that you heard about earlier. We've had, sadly, 12 full arrests so far this year, and COVID on top of it. So our guys are working around the clock, our volunteer firefighters, and they're not getting any rest. This is by far, I've been on the fire department almost 24 years, a little over 24 years. This is the busiest year that I can remember. I cannot remember anything being busier than what we've had so far. I truly appreciate all the hard work by our volunteer firefighters. It's not only going to calls and fires, they're also on committees for equipment, as you saw with our Lucas, and I want to thank everybody for that. That's a piece of equipment that will come in very handy. That's a piece of equipment that will save lives. They did a lot of research with the different brands and the different models to narrow that down. Thank you. Goodfellows, let's talk about Goodfellows. There's a lot of time and effort that's put into Goodfellows this time of year as well. Starting in the middle of November, we start getting calls from people that want to adopt a family. They're out shopping for their kids, their Christmas shopping, and they want to know, is there a family that they can buy gifts for, they can help? The reality of it with us, with Goodfellows, is that the people that need help, what happens with them is they're trying all the different avenues they can to get presents for their kids for Christmas. They're trying to save their pennies, maybe looking for help from friends. And what generally happens is once they've exhausted all their options, at the 11th hour, they will call us. Literally, it's sometimes it's Christmas Eve. They're in a panic. They need toys for the kids. They need clothes, and they don't know where else to go. And they will literally call us at the very last hour. They have tried all their other options. A lot of times, our firefighters, their wives, will go out and shop for these families on Christmas Eve, maybe the day before. They'll do whatever they can to give the kids on Grosse a good Christmas. And it takes a lot of effort. a lot of work, a lot of coordinating. It would be nice if they called in 3 weeks earlier, but it never happens that way. They always call in at the last minute. And all of our people are working hard to make sure that every kid and every family has a good Christmas. All the people that donated money, time, we thank you. All the families that are out there helping with the shopping and helping to make the families that need the help have a nice Christmas. I want to thank them, and I want to thank the firefighters and their wives that work so hard to make this program a success. Thank you. The other thing that I want to thank the firefighters for is the committees. Real quick, there's a lot more to the fire department than going to rescues and fighting fires. This year with COVID, it's been extremely difficult to get our hands on PPE or personal protective equipment. Everybody in the nation needed it. And our volunteer firefighters, through their contacts, have risen to the occasion and got us some good PPE. I want to thank Jake Gonzalez. He works for Ford. He got us over 1,000 masks. I mean, great job. Tim Lorraine, he's got contacts in the supply chain and got us some equipment when we couldn't get it from anywhere else. We still have back orders from the spring where we're trying to get Tyvek suits. We're trying to get things from the medical supply houses, and it still has not come yet. And because of our firefighters, our contacts, and also Kim O'Farrell had a contact that helped us out. And we were able to get through COVID, protect our firefighters, our volunteer firefighters, and protect our residents on the island. Because it doesn't do anybody any good if our firefighters go down. So I want to thank everyone. Thank you very much. Thank you for your hard work.
Thank you, Russ.
Thank you, Russ. So one of the things that Russ, just to close, pointed out to me that would also be very helpful to them is if residents do want to make donations, is to donate Kroger gift cards, Target gift cards, things that they can give families that they can then actually, even at the last minute, achieve their own shopping. So that was one other thing I just wanted to add. But thank you, Chief, for that report.
You're welcome.
And that's it for the clerk's report.
Thank you, Uda. Next, the treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Budney. Trustees' investment report for the month of October shows $14.7 million invested in various accounts. These accounts generated a total of $1,131 in investment interest with an average rate of 0.07%. Details of this information is available at the treasurer's link on the Grosse Township website. On taxes, the 2020 winter tax bills have all been mailed. If any residents have not received the tax bill, please contact the treasurer's office to confirm that we have the proper mailing address. Every property owner receives a copy of their tax bill. Mortgage companies that request a copy for their escrowed loan accounts receive a duplicate copy of the bill. Now, since the offices are closed at least through the 20th, with the potential that they could be closed for the rest of the year, we encourage people to, in addition to the mail, there's a drop box outside of Township Hall, or taxes can be paid at Public Service Credit Union on Macomb Street. The drop box will be checked every day until the end of the year. So even though the township offices may officially be closed, the drop box will be checked and taxes will be removed from there. The 2020, the winter tax bills are due February 16th of 2021. And eligible residents can apply for an extension of the winter tax due date to April 30th. Deferment applications are available by contacting the treasurer's office or online at grosse.com. Excuse me, and that's the treasurer part of my report. On DPS, there is no report. Our next meeting is scheduled for February 9th. And on the Rec Commission.
Thank you.
Go ahead, David.
Okay, no, on the rec department, 2 days ago, Saturday, we had the Santa drive-through at Centennial Farm, and there were between 60 and 70 cars with approximately 150 children that viewed Santa Claus. And this event will be held again this coming Saturday, the 19th, again at Centennial Farms, and it'll be from 5 to 8 p.m. And the next Recreation Commission meeting is January 28th. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, David. I would just add, speaking of the drop boxes, they monitor them throughout the day. So there's a number of times they go out to empty them. You don't have to worry about it being overflowing or you can't get your payment in. They empty them a number of times a day. So that will work out.
We'll always find room for one more check.
Yes, yes. Thanks, David.
Supervisor and Treasurer, can I just make one announcement?
Yes.
Sure.
Oh, okay. Also, I just wanted to bring up, and David, I forgot to email you this today, so I apologize for that, we did do the house judging the Light Up the Island last night. Mr. Novak and myself and the National Honor Society did drive through the island with our registrations for Light Up the Island, the Christmas lights on Grosse. And I just wanted to announce the winners during the board meeting because it is a festive, it's a great event for the island. I wanted to congratulate first place Glenn and Nyron family, and they are on Azalea Circle. And also the Albright family, it was a tie for first place. Everyone has seen the lights on West River. And second place went to the Dobos family on Waterway, and third place went to the Emmett family on O'Donnell Street. So I just wanted to announce those winners during the board meeting because I know a lot of people are watching. And then I also just wanted to reach out to our senior citizens. We are getting a lot of calls for transportation, which is great. I am running the van 5 days a week. And if any senior is watching that is in need of any supplies or groceries, I'm still shopping for senior citizens on Thursday mornings, and they can call 734-216-4905. And I also wanted to thank Matt Hurst and the Presbyterian Church on Grosse for delivering 70 meals to our senior citizens on the island for Thanksgiving. And they will be doing that again for the holidays. So just a couple of thank yous to everybody for some of the holiday things that we're doing for our seniors in our community. And that's all I have.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks, Kim.
All right, trustees report. And we will start with Mr. Bloetscher.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. 2 reports. One is for the Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission. We are pursuing the Ralph Wilson grant to hopefully extend a bicycle path down along the existing fence line for the east side of the airport, that being alongside East River and heading south from Grosse Road towards the International Wildlife Center. That application is due in January, and our chairperson is aggressively preparing that along with Mr. Jaster. Second report is for Open Space Greenways. We are pleased to make an announcement that we have proceeded with ditching alongside the trail that is going to reconnect Gage and Ferry Road. If you're driving on Ferry on the north side, probably about 6 houses east of the canal, you're going to see rather large piles of wood chips. Those are going to be spread once the trail has been roughed in. And we do wish to thank Campo Brothers, Charlie Campo in particular, for doing the ditching. He came in at a significantly lower cost than anybody else did. And because he is a vendor with the township, he was able to provide services for about $3,750. It should make that trail virtually year round. And it's a pilot project to see what the ditching does in terms of this particular area, which has a lot of water runoff. And the idea is if that works in the future, we're going to be looking and exploring options with other trails to make them more user-friendly on a year-round basis. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Bloetscher. Next, Mr. Jurecki.
Okay, hello everybody, and feels great to be part of the Police Commission team again. It's a great team. It's a great department. You know, it's kind of a new dynamic, I believe, with public safety, especially here on Grosse, because not only are we dealing with COVID, but we're kind of dealing with it with one hand tied behind our back. And what I'm referring to is one bridge versus two. So, you know, saving people's lives and servicing the community is a lot difficult for both the fire department and the police department. But, you know, they've taken all the reasonable steps. All the police officers have been trained on pandemic and COVID, and it's been very fluid. You know, as they've learned more and more information has come available, they've updated their procedures and processes 3 times, making it more safe for them and the people that they encounter in doing their jobs. On the plus side, there's been a little less traffic here due to the bridge being down, less transients coming on board. Calls, for example, incoming calls in the month of November were 889 versus 1,277 in November of 19. That's a 30% reduction. Crashes are also down. And they've gone from 12 in November of vehicle crashes, 12 this year for the month of November, and 18 last year. So, you know, we have about a 33% reduction there. Interesting enough, something that I always focus on a little bit is the mix of those crashes. 58% of our vehicle crashes this year have involved deer versus 50% last year, albeit the number's down, but it's just a higher probability that if you get in a crash, a deer is going to be involved with it. But the police department has a great plan to address the deer situation. There's already been one attempt this year to count the deer. It was unsuccessful. They had to abort it very quickly, not to waste township money flying around a helicopter because there wasn't enough snow to identify and count the deer. But, you know, to address the problem long-term and get the right number of deer for this island to support, the first step is getting a count. We need to have that. I'm pretty confident that the team will get that done this year. The other thing is, due to less activity, there's been just a tremendous amount of training going on. Brent Harding gave a really good presentation at the commission, and it gives me a lot of confidence that we have a very highly trained, with relevant training police force, and they're pretty much capable of handling any situation that they may encounter on this island. And there goes a lot of credit to the current administration, but everybody that has come before it. It's just a really good team, and I think that they're doing a lot of good stuff. The one thing though that I was cautioned on with recent conversation, in fact, one I had today with Brent Harden, is that the citizens of Grosse shouldn't have a false sense of security that in the fact that there's less transient traffic and less calls, that all of a sudden we're more safe than what we have been in the past because of that. The indication is that the severity and the seriousness of some of the crimes, even though there's fewer of them that are committed, they're more severe, and so everybody has to maintain the same reasonable precautions in their daily lives as they always have. And not to scare anybody or anything like that, but it's interesting to find out that those people that do go over that bridge and with trouble as their agenda, they're paying $5 now, and they have higher expectations. So we just all have to be really careful, continue to be careful in our daily lives. So I don't know, Brent or Ken or Mark, if you want to comment on that, but I just thought that was kind of interesting. I see Brent, you're there. Why don't you pick up unless Mark wants to take it, or you're on mute. Can't hear you.
Now you're on scramble. Not going to work.
How about Ken? Ken, the difference in could you comment on that or no? Just a minute.
No, I think what you're saying, it's typical, as I explained at the last commission meeting, is the later you go into the night, the more serious the crimes you're going to encounter, or the more unsullied people you're going to encounter. The call volume is less, but the severity of the crimes are still there. I know just in the month of November, we had a fleeing elude, officers involved in a chase. We had a hit and run crash involving a stolen vehicle. And we've had some other incidents that are similar. So even though what you say, Mike, is correct, is the calls for service are down, but the severity is still there. So we are capable and we are handling everything. I think our guys are doing a good job. The deputy chief is doing a good job in getting our guys trained. One of our officers recently went to a roadside interview class. 2 days later, he was able to pull narcotics out of a car that we probably would have overlooked had he not had that training. So we are seeing less calls for service, but they're more severe in nature.
Thanks, Ken.
Thank you for that. And Jim, if I could just add just a couple other items as a new fiduciary that's not totally up to speed on all the protocols, but there are a few things that I think that we as a board need to get involved with having a study session on. And we spoke about them earlier today, and you said maybe I should mention them here. But I think, new administration, some fresh eyes on some things. And there are 3 items that I believe that we need to get together with the board, have a study session on them, maybe multiple study sessions, and get back to the community. These aren't things that we have to do tomorrow, but I know we got budgets and everything else that we have to, deal with right now. But I really think that, it's a new administration. The old administration's been here for a number of years. I think we at least need to have a study session to consider having a compliance audit based on, gap and best practices and compliance. I think, that's a common thing that's done when new administrations take over. And I think we should really have a study session on that to see where we stand, have some fresh eyes, an independent audit group and see what we find out, and know, have a higher sense of certainty as to where we are at, because sometimes same people looking at the same things year in, year out, multiple years, things kind of slip through the cracks, and it's just a good thing to have. So that's number one. Number two, I really think we need to have a study session and consider hiring an engineer that's an expert on bridges. Anybody that's lived on Grosse for 40 years, or 30, we've had multiple major repairs. And every time that we've had a major repair, we're given an estimate on how long it's going to last. And pretty much 100% of the time, doesn't quite last as long as the estimate that we were given. And so I think if we had our own consultant, we don't have to bring that person into the mix of the meetings or anything like that, but just someone to consult with us, works for us, and can better position ourselves to interact more intelligently with the folks that we're facing off with, Wayne County, MDOT, things like that. And hopefully after the repairs are done, have a greater level of confidence as to how long they will last, how much maintenance has to be done, and how in-depth the inspections need to be. What type of tools do we have to go to sonar and things like that to make sure that the piers are not going in a negative way, faster than what they had estimated or planned. And finally, just listening to Derek up there talking about, all the infrastructure plans, and I know every department, whether it be public safety, recreation, you name it, they all have expenditures that they would like to see take place down the road this year, next year, whatever. And we have very limited resources. And I think that the best way we could possibly get our arms around that and really know the impact of changes and what's around the corner and what we can afford and what we can't afford, and make some tough decisions, is to have a multi-year financial plan. And I think as a board, we need to commit to ourselves to give ourselves that benefit of having a tool like that. It doesn't, again, have to happen tomorrow, but I think once we get through the budget plan, we really need to have a study session and sit down and look at, the merits of all these three suggestions. And I just would like to know from the other board members, is that something that you would be in support of? It's obviously not a vote, but I mean, would you support at least having those in-depth study sessions?
I think you're on fire, Mike.
That's something that I will talk to the board members about, and we'll see what they want to talk about. They're all good suggestions, Mike.
I lost you, Jim. I'm sorry.
They're all good suggestions.
Okay.
I'll talk to the board members, see what they want to talk about. You're right. We have to get through number one. We have to get through all our new board members, just learning to be a board member and learning the people, learning what's there, why it's done. Obviously, you can't change something until you know how it works and why it works the way it does. But those are all good suggestions.
Okay.
Anything else, Mike?
That is it.
That is it. Mr. Porcarelli.
Good evening. I've been assigned to the Airport Commerce Park Commission, and actually the first meeting that I will be attending is until next Monday. It's the third Monday of the month, but I've been working with Mike Duker. I don't see if he's on tonight. I just don't see him on the screen, but I wanted to thank him. We've gone through the future projects. I've gone through the books with him. I'm getting an understanding of how the Airport Commerce Park works, what their programs are, etc. So besides that, I don't have any formal report, but I also just like to comment what Jim and Mike were saying. I know it's going to take some time. We have a lot of things on our plate. There's a lot of items. There's a lot of very important items that need addressing, and they need addressing now. And I know in the future that I would be in favor of any type of, well, the only kind we can really have our study sessions, probably the most appropriate way, obviously, to go over some of these items. But what Mike mentioned, I am definitely in favor of at least having an in-depth study on each of those issues. So thank you.
Thanks, Joe. And Jameson, you're up.
Good evening, everyone. First, I'd just like to say I certainly don't think it hurts to take a look at and performing study sessions on those 3 items. The other thing I wanted to bring up, so Dr. John Hardig recently published an article about our local regional economy, about downriver and how it can recover from its industrial roots. Now, Dr. Hardig's a smarter guy than me, but I've been speaking and thinking about that for a little while. I actually talked to him today. And one of the ways we could help accomplish that is through a regional economic association. So I realize that's a pretty big idea, but we're at a turning point in our communities, and downriver has so much to offer. Like, we have the wildlife refuge, the river, beaches, 100 little tiny downtowns, and it's all underutilized. So we came out and vehemently opposed the reindustrialization of the Trenton waterfront, but we didn't offer the city of Trenton any alternative. We just told them, don't do that. Well, they need taxes too. So we can help shape the future of our communities by taking a leadership role in its future development. So by forming a regional economic authority that advocates for the establishment of a mixed use and nautical economy across the downriver area, we can help do that. And we can oppose heavy industry. We can reinvigorate downtowns. We can help make Macomb a viable economic hub, bring businesses to the airport economic zone, and help keep heavy truck traffic off our neighboring roads. And all of those are great things. Several communities across the U.S. have done it, and Muskegon, Detroit, Cleveland, Whitehall. So there's really no reason we couldn't do it as well. It would just be some work. It's an idea at this point, and something I wanted to bring up. I know I have the support of many Islanders in that regard, and I've spoken to some local politicians all the way up to the state level, and they all think it's a pretty great idea. So I'm hoping my fellow board members would consider supporting the idea as well, because I think this right now, this period of time, is our chance to make significant impact on the future of the island, the area around it, the health of our residents. So we've got a shot here. So I just wanted to bring that up. So thanks, Supervisor.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Yager. Next, our attorney's report. Mr. Assorti, do you have anything tonight?
Mr. Supervisor and members of the board, just a couple things to go over. I am currently working with the township manager on the return to work protocols, given the new directives from the CDC early this month. Dale and I are talking pretty much daily about the new processes, what's in place, and the new standards from the state. Of course, I'm sure everyone's familiar with, the amount of notice that we're receiving on making these changes, but we are staying on top of those. There were some new directives given as far as quarantining, and we're going to follow through with those. The 33rd District Court had moved to the prosecutors and the in-house defense counsels appearing in the court. They now moved back to complete Zoom. Just the judges and the staff are in the courtrooms. Those seem to be working pretty well. We're back on our normal 3-week rotation. We're seeing about the normal size of docket. We had a little spike there for a while just because of a little bit of a backlog, but we're back to about the normal size, and we're getting through those cases in about the same amount of time that we were previously. So that's all good, and it's almost to normal from that regard. The township, I know this is a question for a large group of the residents on the island, certainly the board members. The township has moved forward with proceeding on the rental property issue that we had. We have requested relief from the Wayne County Circuit Court, including immediate and extraordinary relief. We're doing what we can on that and keeping things informed. Tony Gray and certainly everyone at the police department is assisting with that, making sure that we have all the information we need to get in front of the judge to make sure that we have an appropriate community setting. So as always, I'm around if anybody has any questions, you can get a hold of me and we can go over in detail anything that you need.
Thanks, Tom. Appreciate that. Township Manager, Mr. Riem.
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I have a few brief items I'd like to report to the board and the community. It was referenced earlier about Township Hall being closed to the 20th. We are closed to the public, but staff is working in person and remotely. And we're following all the state guidelines along that avenue. And it was mentioned about using the drop box. We urge the residents to do so. It's checked multiple times during the day as well as on weekends. I wanted to add. Depending on what happens after the 20th, that we don't know. But Township Hall will be closed for the holidays on December 24th, 25th, and December 30th and 31st. So stay tuned for what will be coming forward from the state of Michigan. But I did want to touch on Mr. Assorti's comment about the return to work policy. There are several variations over the past several months on what the protocol should be. And there's so many, it depends. So Mr. Assorti came up with the idea to put together a flow chart for all those, and he's polishing that up right now. So again, what's behind all this, it's a state requirement, but we have to keep a safe work environment. So everyone is doing so. Washing the hands, using gel, wearing masks, and we urge everyone to do that always. And last item, I think I did this a while back, and I think it deserves it again. With this whole year, with all the Zoom meetings, with all the different change in technologies and all the assistance we need from people that understand these things, Mr. Friel has become our kind of inside technology guru. So I wanted to give him a shout out, kudos, and a thank you. He's helped all the staff, and I know even with the new board, he's helped set you guys up. So that's just greatly appreciated. So I just wanted to thank him publicly. And Mr. Supervisor, that's it.
Thanks, Dale. Appreciate that. Supervisor's report. Well, I think the supervisor's report you will see is going to be a little different than the past supervisors. It's probably going to be a little bit shorter. But we took the oath of office November 20th, just a couple of weeks ago, and we have been busy. Certainly our number one issue, I think, right now is the bridge and the bridges. And I'm happy to report that the East River Miso/Hickory Island Bridge, whatever you want to call it, is open, as well as the West River underpass is open. The upper portion of that West River Bridge on Parkway is open, but it has nowhere to go. But at least we can get through. At least we can get through on West River now and the East River. I haven't been out there to see. There could be another lane closure for a short period of time on that bridge to put some rails up, but they assure us that it won't, they won't be long delays or shutdowns. So we have those. As well as far as the Free Bridge or Wayne County Bridge itself, contractor has done a dive and an analysis. They're putting their report together right now. They will give that to the county. The county will look it over. And at our next meeting, because I did request that we have weekly meetings and they agreed to that, our next meeting will actually be January 6th because of the fact that right now they're waiting for that analysis from the contractor, and then the Wayne County offices are closed until the first of the year. So that's the reason for the delay until January 6th for our next meeting. But things are moving ahead as well as we could want at this point. So we will keep you updated. I instituted the weekly updates, and we will have that until that bridge is fixed. We're going to keep everybody up to date as well as we can on that, because it's such a big issue. We've also been working on, and we're currently in the process of putting together what I'm going to call a post deer cull program. We all know we have our deer cull. It lasts from January through February. But we also know we have a deer problem, and I certainly don't believe that the cull by itself is enough to take care of that problem. So we are looking into it to see what else we can do. Mike mentioned that they tried to go up and do a deer count. Certainly a deer count is very important to this whole thing, to see what we're dealing with. I certainly believe that during this season, we will have that deer count, and that our department is on top of that. So thank you, Mike. Thank you, police department. The only other thing I have is I would like to say to the board, at our next meeting, which is January 11th, I believe, second Monday.
That's correct.
January 11th, I will have an item on there to think about changing our board meeting format, and more importantly, time. I truly believe we should be starting a little earlier. Certainly for all our employees that have to attend, they're there, they work a full day, and then they have this lull between 5 and 7:30, and then they have the meeting itself. That's an awful long day for them. It's a long day for a lot of us, just waiting between 5 and 7:30. So that's gonna be an issue, an item on the next meeting, and I'd like for you to be thinking about it, of changes that we can make. And other than that, I would just like to say, not only to the board and the employees, but certainly to all the residents out there, have a very Merry Christmas. And we certainly want a happy and new 2021 year, different from what 2020 was. And with that, that ends my comments. No discussion items. So we're open to public comment, 3 minutes max, and comments, not questions. Bryan, I'll let you open that up. Please give your name when you before you make your comment.
Okay, if you have public comment, give me a wave, or there we go, Mr. Craig Pilkington. Oh, you got to unmute yourself, Craig.
I've got it. As a matter of fact, I saw Bill Heil waving. Bill, would you mind letting Bill go first, Bryan?
Sure. All right, Bill, go for it.
Thank you. I was impressed with the comment that was made here by the board tonight. There's been acknowledgement of a lot of concerns, that things like the sewage plant, the pipe systems, the bridges, they're going to cost a lot of money. They're going to take a lot of coordination. I think that Mike Jurecki has a target there in having some financial analysis to know where we stand. I'd like to add to that I think the state of Michigan, and Craig can speak to that too, offers training or information to people on what their responsibilities are and how they can function and fulfill them. Also, you can learn what agencies you need to go to and who the contact people are. The reason I bring that up is that if you want to go somewhere, you sort of have to know where you're at and how you're going to get there. And this is sort of tools to accomplish the purpose. I think this is wonderful what you're talking about, because you need awareness to begin that. And then from there, with information to the public, you can gain support, gather monies from grants that we may or may not have looked at in the past. On this bridge, I'd like to comment that I think it's very important that an engineer is something that we might retain as an advisor, someone that can give us some facts. We've had an awful lot of information gathered that shows that there has been awareness and lack of follow through by authority to either inspect or maintain as should be done. And as I best understand it, the people we meet with are public relations people. The credentials I've seen for the people we've dealt with have had those credentials, not people who know what they're doing or what's happening. If we could find a way to work with that and learn more about what our rights are, we would be well served. But I think we're off to a good start. I think you know where we're at. I've heard things here that I was appreciating to hear. And if we remember that we have to agree next week after we've talked this week on something we might find contentious because it's a different issue and we're always serving the public, that would serve us too. Thank you for this opportunity to speak tonight.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay,
okay, Bryan,
you're up.
Okay, thank you, Bryan. Craig Pilkington, South Point. I want to echo what Bill said. I want to echo and endorse what Trustee Jurecki said, and also segue into an endorsement of what Trustee Yager said. And that is that the new board has a tremendous amount to learn. You have got to become familiar with bond issues, with collective bargaining agreements, with just a wide raft of information that is going to be very, very time consuming to ingest and be able to put that information to use. I strongly endorse, as I did 3.5 years ago, the formation of a standing committee, either subsidiary to DS or on its own, with oversight for our bridges. I think that the Grosse Township jurisdiction is probably more impacted by bridges and their reliability than just about any other jurisdiction in this state. It has pronounced impact on just about everything that we do. And we have the one large bridge, although it's not part of the large bridge program in the state of Michigan. And then we have the local bridge. The funding mechanisms are different. The assessment is comparable in nature, but the way the allocations of funding are made are different, in some cases less transparent than others. I think we're very, very lucky to have Derek Friel, who's come back with us, that has, through his experience in Gibraltar, as a feel for the local bridge funding program, which we've never taken advantage of. We have to understand all of those things. Just in the bridges that are at risk currently that have not been addressed, Park Lane, Elba, Meridian, going across thoroughfare. I know I'm missing another one. You've probably got another $10 to $12 million in reconstruction investment that has to be made. And these are bridges that haven't been touched since the 1930s. I think that's correct. And they're all significant value. Understanding how the process works, how funds are allocated, what Wayne County's responsibilities are, how appropriations are made at state level are really critical for this township in being able to maintain the integrity of that infrastructure. Having a committee that is solely committed to that and in reporting to you, thinking at a higher level, I think would help this board a great deal. And Derek could probably make you aware of it, but Northern Michigan University is a partner, I think, with MDOT. They have training available that would be of great value to you. Matt Chenoweth from Bridges and Structures.
Greg, I'm going to interrupt you just for a minute. Could you, you're over your 3. Could you please bring it to an end?
I'm going to stick with just that endorsement. Strongly consider that. And then what Yager said about thinking beyond the bounds of Grosse and how we develop something regionally is of extreme importance. So it's something different in character for our board. Thank you very much. And I apologize, Jim, I'm going over on my time. Thanks. Have a great evening.
Thank you, Craig. Do we have any other public comment? I am seeing none.
Then, with that, I will entertain the motion.
Oh, hold on 1 second. I do have Greg Karmazin does have his hand up. I am sorry.
Oh, okay. Hey, Greg.
Hi, Greg Karmazin. Yeah, I just wanted to follow up on comments of Craig Pilkington and Bill Heil. I agree with what they're saying about the importance of those ideas that were raised by Trustee Jurecki and Trustee Yager. I would just want to add one other thing with following up on your comment, Mr. Supervisor. On the deer call, I did participate in the police commission meeting that took place in December, and I do from my observation or listening to the meeting, believe that there is a good plan in place, and I give a lot of credit to the police department personnel and Trustee Jurecki for getting up in a helicopter and making a good attempt at a deer count. And I'm sure that they will get that done as soon as there's some snow on the ground. And I know that that's a critically important part of this process to get the DNR to approve the appropriate number of permits. But one thing I mentioned this at the police commission meeting, and I just wanted to repeat it for the benefit of the entire board, that, you know, using the township's past fact sheet on the deer call and the history of it, there is information that the police commission and people involved, the officials involved in the program, have been using for years, that suggests that the size of the deer population on the island has been substantially larger than what the DNR believes is a sustainable and appropriate level for the ecosystem on the island. A lot of times people look at this as just an issue for landscaping or safety and car crashes, and those are extremely important issues. But I would also point out that there is evidence that there's been substantial damage done to the open space and the ecosystem on the island. And I would point out that the city of Ann Arbor hired a biologist to examine the deer herd in Ann Arbor and how it impacts on the ecosystem. And thinking about Supervisor Budney's thoughts about follow on the deer call, if we can't get to the level of deer on the island through this call because of the limited number of permits that are issued, I would suggest that the board look into the possibility of hiring a biologist to really study this issue, to look at it holistically from an ecosystem standpoint, to look at the open space, to look at the impact on private property and public safety. And maybe if we can't get there this year, then we can get on a trajectory that gets us to that sustainable level. I mean, I think we all agree that it's great seeing deer and wildlife on the island, but we do need to keep in mind that there's a balance that needs to be achieved. So those are my comments tonight. Thank you.
Greg.
Okay, with that, do we have any other public comment? Looks like you're good.
Nothing. I'm going to take that as a nothing. So with that, I need a motion.
So moved.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful holiday, and we'll see you January 11th.
Merry
Merry Christmas, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, guys.